I'm Mike Drezek, Tech Integrator at Lakeshore, and excited to bring another Lakeshore educator to TIF Talks today. I'd like to introduce Danielle Arnone. She's currently in her 15th year as an educator here in Western New York. Her educator journey includes being a teacher, coach, and advisor at Pine Valley Central from 2009 to 2017. After Pine Valley, she joined Lakeshore Central School District in 2017. And Danielle has coached varsity girls basketball, was secretary for the Western New York National Academy Foundation Regional Board, and currently serves as work-based learning coordinator and director of the Lakeshore Academy of Business and Finance. Outside of the classroom, you can often find Danielle at an ice rink, cheering on her sons, and also let it be known that she will argue that the South Dayton donut is better than the Paula's donut. So, yeah, fighting words around here. I don't know, yeah. But very proud that Lakeshore is part of this event again, and welcome Danielle Arnone.
I want to preface by I'm an extremely emotional person, so this is already, no doubtedly, I'm going to cry, just so you know. But good afternoon, everyone, and I just want to say today's guest speakers have been phenomenal. I was just telling Mike and Melanie that every school district should be here with an admin and some teachers, just to look and bump heads around like-minded people and gain some inspiration. But today I'm here to talk to you about my family's love more story, the life of our mother, Paula Troutman, and the things that were important to her. And I hope that it inspires you in some way and that you have something to take and implement into your own life and career. So a little history of Paula. She was adorable. She was born September 26, 1963. She grew up with her father, mother, and her 3 older siblings. There was quite the age gap between her and her siblings. Donnie, the oldest, was 11 years older. Janice was 8 years older, and Jimmy was 5 years older. They used to joke that she was adopted. My mom had a good childhood, but at age 10, her world was torn apart when her parents divorced. And I remember her telling me that it was the hardest time that she had ever been through. She felt like she was going through it alone, especially with that age gap. Everyone was out of the house except for her brother Jimmy. And she ended up spending a lot of weekdays and weeknights at her sister's house. And for those that you maybe have known, trauma obviously to children can have serious negative impacts. But I believe that this trauma that my mom experienced really set the course of the direction of what she wanted for her future and her family. Moving forward a couple more years, at the age of 14, my mother and father started dating. As my dad recalls, it was 4 days after that picture on the left-hand side. High school sweethearts. And my mom loved being a part of the Troutman family. My dad was one of 5 siblings who were very close in age, so a little bit of the opposite. And I remember my mom saying that she just loved that their house was just full of all of them together all the time, and that she wanted that same thing for her family. I know that when my mom wasn't at the Troutman household, my dad would walk miles to be with her, because Snapchat and FaceTime weren't available back then, things today's generation will never understand. Fast forward 6 years later, and on a lucky rainy day, my mom married the love of her life and her high school sweetheart, Dan Troutman, on May 14th, 1983. She immediately set upon being a mother and starting her family. So one day, before their 1-year anniversary, and on Mother's Day, the greatest blessing of all was me. Then following soon after, December 1985, my sister Courtney. Justina was then born August 27th, 1987. And our youngest brother, Cody, the lucky devil, December 3rd, 1988. So 4 of us under the age of 5. She was a lunatic. I have 2 boys who are 3 years apart. Both of my sisters have 2 children who are 2 years apart. And I would tell her, Mom, I don't know how you did this. Like 4 children, what were you thinking? How did you do it? And she was like, I don't know. I would take you guys everywhere and you were just well behaved and you listened. And I was like, well, we were scared to death of you. So I get it. My dad was a small dairy farmer growing up. We had about 100 dairy cows. And my mom stayed home most of our young childhood to take care of us. And I'm not sure if you know, but I'm sure you do, dairy farmers don't really make a lot of money, and especially having a family of 6. So looking back, I realized we were poor, but we were financially poor because we were rich with love. My mom made us feel so special, taking care of us. But why were we poor? I mean, we were eating fried Spam sandwiches and chicken pot pies from the freezer. And you really haven't lived until you've eaten a Spam sandwich, I'll tell you that. But my mom would make us, she would sew us our clothes. The picture on the left-hand side with our dresses, my mom made those for us. And we had lots of hand-me-downs. The girls had to wear all my old clothes, sorry. But with all of that, we really did live a blessed life. We were loved, we were taken care of. My mom, her focus was 100% on us. She always told us, I don't have friends because I'm with you guys all of the time. While we were in elementary school, finally when all the 4 were away, she decided to go back to school and get her degree. She started at Jamestown Community College, and then she finished her education degree at Fredonia. I think about the difficulty of having 4 children and having to take care of them and all of their needs and your household and your husband, and then all while doing that, trying to get your education to live the life that you want, to give you a little more meaning on top of what you already have. And my mom truly was amazing for that. So her love of teaching started my 7th grade year. It was my first year at Pine Valley in the junior senior high school. And lo and behold, she was my 7th grade science teacher. So class felt really no different than being at home. It felt no different than being in any other class. I wasn't trying to get away with anything. The only difference was I called her Mom and not Mrs. Troutman. When my second sister, Courtney, came to the high school, she said that she no longer had her as her 7th grade teacher, but her earth science teacher, because at that time she transitioned there. And she recalls my mom being super hard on us, lovingly, just so that way no one would ever doubt that she had any bias towards her children, although she got 100 on her Regents, so I don't know about that. But she made sure, honestly, that all of her students, they felt just like family, because there were high expectations for achievement. They were told to treat each other kindly, to work hard, and they did this all while feeling the love from her. My mom wore many hats, as someone spoke before, when you're in a small school district. She coached 3 sports, volleyball, basketball, softball, and she coached us, my sisters and myself, since we were young. And her athletes worked hard for her. I've been a coach for a long time now, and the relationships that you build with your athletes, they're intensified when the students become your athlete, because you're working on something that they're also passionate for. And she was able to really build intense relationships with her students then and show them how much she cared, and they would give their all for her. She was a ski club advisor. She was a class advisor. She participated in a lot of church youth activities. Pretty much she was everywhere where her kids were. She knew where we were all, at all times. And if she wasn't coaching us, then she was cheering us on. My mom made it extremely amazing to be in the same building as her. From day one, she was school-spirited. I mean, she pretty much showed us how to be. She did really little things for us. She would, on Valentine's Day, put bags together and put them in our lockers before we got to school, which was always a super nice surprise and something that I try to continue on with my children. But being with her made her feel special, and clearly she continued on making us transition to crazy, spirited people as well. When it was time for college, I remember Mom telling me that I should be a teacher, and I said, absolutely not. I will never be a teacher. So just know, never say never, right? I headed to college for business, and while I was away, she started to transition from being the earth science teacher to her career in administration, or the dark side, as we call it, right? Soon, all of us kids were in college, pursuing our degrees in business psychology, elementary education, and also playing basketball because sports were a huge part of our lives. So my mom was voted at Elmira College. I was lucky to go to Elmira with both of my sisters. And she was voted by our class to be our commencement candlelight speaker, which in order to be voted to be that speaker, your entire class body had to vote for you. So this was especially special to us because my mom, even though she was building her career, she had her son that was still in high school, and she was part of all of that. She still made time to come to all of our games to be a part of our life while we were in college. I think she had just as much fun as we did sometimes. But she knew all of the students, and they knew her, and actually the president himself knew her by her first name. So that was a super memorable time and something that I've always kept with me. The time of my life, my mom's life, for when she was in administration is a little foggy, mainly because I was in college for 6.5 years. Don't worry, I came out with 2 degrees, using them both. But what I do remember was the very first thing she told me was that when she was interviewing for positions in administration, every interview she would come out of and someone would say, "Paula, that was a great interview, but we're just looking for someone with more experience." And I remember her saying, "Well, how the heck am I supposed to get experience if no one's going to hire me?" She was frustrated, but she persevered and she kept pushing because she knew she was meant to do this job. So finally, she got a shot with Fredonia quickly after heading to Lakeshore. And I'll tell you a story because the assistant principal at Lakeshore is currently my assistant principal. At the time she was there, and he told me the story of how a student got in the building that wasn't supposed to be there, and my mom was chasing that kid down in high heels all through the hall. She was determined. She chased that kid out of the building, never caught him, but she came back and said, "Daryl, I don't think I'm made to do this." And he's like, "It's only been a couple months. You got to give it some time, Paula." And I'm glad she stuck it out. Soon after, she was hired as the Westfield Elementary principal, where she stayed there until 2012, then heading to Silver Creek to be their middle school principal until the fall of 2014 when she received her dream job offer of being curriculum coordinator. But as life we know, lots of things change, and she has come back full circle to Fredonia Middle School as the principal in July of 2018 with plans of retiring from there. No matter where my mom was, I always met a ton of people who were wonderful, who would talk about what a great job she was doing, but then also she would talk about the amazing educators and teachers and staff and students and the people who were developing and changing and better impacting her. I would also joke with my mom anytime I had an issue, like, how do I respond to this parent? What do I say with this going on? I would call her, and she would get annoyed. And I was like, "Well, Paula, if you would just write a book, then I wouldn't have to call you." But I know she liked it. So you've heard a lot about my mom's life, mainly from a daughter's perspective, slightly biased, but I believe fair. So I'm going to share some stories with you from her time at Fredonia, from her colleagues and staff, to get an idea of what it was like to work with her. And 20 minutes is a lot of time, so I tried to get as much as I could in here. So this is from the middle and high school social worker. Paula and I started at Fredonia the same year, and I had not worked in a public school before. We had our first CSE meeting, and it was going to be a large group and the potential to be a tough one. Of course, that week was Spirit Week, and both Paula and the assistant principal came in as superheroes, like all out, bulging muscles, wigs, capes, everything. She goes, Paula was fun-loving, and her fun-loving spirit and her ability to gracefully toggle between seriousness and levity was perfect. She was always easy to laugh and find the humor in things, which is so important in our field. Paula was a let's do it leader. She trusted us in our classrooms and supported what we needed or wanted for our students. The stories of her heading to Newport with Amanda to bring the innovation course, of collaborating with the SUNY students at Fredonia to have their students work on the mural. Paula was all about, on top of that, and bringing creativity and whatever the teachers wanted in the classroom was also about family and creating a family-like environment at school, taking care of those that she worked with. These are the qualities I truly admire and respect in a leader. An elementary special education teacher who was the musical director for the middle school spoke about how her enthusiastic support was felt to him and the students after and during their performance. After one specific musical, she took time to write congratulation notes to all the students who were participating, and that was over 100 notes that she hand wrote. Another story was from a counselor that said during a Monday morning meeting, she was complaining about her tears. They well up, and she got tears running down her face every morning from the wind when she walks into school. And my mom's response was, I cry when I come to work every day too. And every day she walks into school with tears down her face, she thinks about how much she laughed that day and how my mom was fostering a positive school culture. And from another counselor, my mom talked, Paula first started with her. She pushed her to be more proactive for programming for the students and supported the development of so much they have now in place at Fredonia. When she realized that they really needed another counselor, my mom advocated tirelessly for another position. I will forever be grateful for her, she said. One teacher's fondest memory of Paula was hearing about her family and how much she appreciated them. One of the last conversations she had with Paula was how she was trying to switch from glasses to contacts, but she could not figure out how to put them in. She would struggle all morning, so her daughter Justina started coming down in the morning before school every day to help put them in. Another memory she had was, do you have a pumpkin in your pocket? This is a game she implemented. If you knew my mom, she loved games. She'd pass out 3 pumpkins, paper pumpkins to the staff, and the goal at the end of the day was to have the pumpkin, you got a prize. So it was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I was coming back from checking my mailbox, and I saw Paula suspiciously looking into another teacher's classroom window. I asked, what are you doing here? She goes, here, I'm going to give you my keys. I think she's hiding in there with a pumpkin. Unlock the door and look. You weren't allowed to hide. That was a rule. So, of course, I did my principal's dirty work. I opened the door. We both peered in. We saw nothing but the dark. Come to find out, 18 minutes later, this teacher did, in fact, win. Paula was sure to march down to my room at 2:30 and tell me how we were fooled that this teacher was hiding behind the desk and we needed to look better next time. A few months later, it was, do you have a Santa in your sleigh? And at 7 a.m., she was handing me a sleigh. Lastly, everyone loves Jean Ember, the month of jeans Paula implemented with crazy fun days. By the way, I've pushed my district to do the same. My mom truly put the fun in work, but also compassion. I remember when COVID hit, I think I'm the third person to say that, she wanted to do something special for all of the work her teachers were doing, knowing how difficult it was transitioning to the virtual world. With the help of her assistant principal, Jamie, my mom put together these flower pots for their staff. They were in the cafeteria doing this all day, and her secretary figured out a route for them to drive. They had to ride in separate cars because they weren't allowed to be near each other. So they went through and they delivered these to all their staff members. And when it was time for my mom to deliver the ones closer to Buffalo, she asked me to ride with her. I said, of course. The surprise and the happiness from her staff members seeing her was really extraordinary. For some people, this was their first time seeing somebody since COVID had begun. And the thoughtfulness behind putting these together and letting them know that they were there for them. It's something that I don't think that they teach you in your administration classes, and it was in some sort of handbook, but that was my mom. For my mom's 60th birthday, which was this past year, her staff wanted to do something to make her feel special. Jamie told me that they planned for weeks secretly through emails trying to figure something out to do and had decided potluck because Paula loved food. So they're going to start with that. And then faces of all of her. They had the plan to dress in black, Jamie let me know that the day before, my mom actually didn't come to school because she was so sick and everyone was freaking out. But she's like, have faith, she'll be here. She wasn't feeling her complete best, but she came to school. And throughout the day as she was walking, people would constantly put their face of her back up, and it made her truly feel special because that's what she was to her staff, and she felt special that day. Sadly and extremely unexpectedly, my mom passed away the night of January 1st, New Year's Day at home. My mom was fun-loving and spirited, and that was, for me and my family, the worst day of our lives. But this is an inspirational story and not a sad one. On Facebook, the day before she died, her New Year's resolution was to love more. And friends commented, Paula, how could you possibly love anybody any more than you already do? Because my mother was bursting with love for not only her family, but for the people around her, the people she worked with, her students, her previous athletes, the people who had ever been present in her life. The following day, when word had spread about my mother's passing, it was a hard day to constantly see your phone, check Facebook. Messages were coming through, story upon story of people talking about the impact that my mom had in their lives. And it was beautiful, but hard to see. I'm going to read a story from a student who was one of her athletes at Pine Valley and a student. This is one of those losses that makes it feel as though surely the world has stopped spinning. It doesn't quite feel real. You meant so much to so many, and I was no different. I had been planning to share my appreciation for all the guidance, love, support, and comfort you gave me in my teenage years and beyond with you personally, but now I will share it for you here. You had such an incredible impact on my life, and I will be willing to bet at least thousands of others. I can think of hundreds off the top of my head. It's just who you were. You were such a safe and loving space and always made me feel seen. You were such a gift to my world and everyone who had a beautiful opportunity to be a part of yours. You went so far above the duties of a teacher and a coach, both of which you were my favorite, but you were so much more, from your laughter and hugs to your wisdom and your caring glare when we needed it, to late night emails in college when I was desperate for hope. You were a guiding light through darkness, well beyond my high school years. Thank you for all the opportunities and memories you brought to me and so many others. Thank you for the countless lessons and love that I carry through each day. Thank you for all the work you put in so we could experience more of the world at such a young age. I feel so fortunate to have been able to explore Arizona and the Grand Canyon and Costa Rica, the trip of a lifetime with you. The world will never be the same without you, but you will live on in everyone you touched. You left this world with so much love, and I'm immensely grateful we were a part of that life. I love you, Mrs. Trauman, from the bottom of my broken heart. Thank you for everything. I'm going to carry out your New Year's resolution to love more, and I will be sending love to your beautiful family as this community that loved you as powerfully as you loved them. But those last words to love more were to the world, and it took off. A teacher at Pine Valley wanted to make t-shirts for the staff with hearts and the saying, "Love More PT," representing my mother's initials. They sent each one of us kids one, and my father, to show their love. But what came next was unexpected. This teacher shared this out with other local schools, and soon they were doing the same thing but with an addition. When they ask you at the funeral home, where would you like your donations to be sent in lieu of flowers? My dad said the volunteer fire department at Forestville in South Dayton. They were the first people to come to my parents' house to try to help. And we know the dedication and love that these people have for their community, which is exactly what my mom had. When other schools heard this, they added it onto their shirt order forms to donate to their local fire departments. Who would have thought that my mother would have been helping these valuable people of our community who helped so many others in their time of need? Many schools participated, and some may not be listed here, but it was heartfelt to see this across Western New York. If you don't mind giving me a second. I'm so grateful that my mom's New Year's resolution was to love more. My mom loved her grandbabies. They, of course, loved her because she gave them too much sugar and they had popsicles for breakfast, so it's understandable. Grammy made everything better. Family was everything to my mother, and if you were to ask anyone that she worked with, they would tell you the same. We've still planned to instill everything that my mom has taught us and to continue to love those around us. The death of my mother has been extremely difficult, but my mom helped grow strong and resilient children who love hard. In the audience are both of my sisters and my sister-in-law today, showing up just like my mom would have to show her support. My sisters and my sister-in-law and I are all in education. Courtney, a principal at Pine Valley. Justine, an elementary teacher there as well. My sister-in-law, a speech pathologist at Randolph, while my brother is a basketball coach at Hilbert College at the collegiate level. We have all been so very lucky to have our mom in our lives, to show us the power of love, laughter, and perseverance, allowing us to continue to impact future generations for the better. My mother made us all so proud, and we looked up to her so much. I can only hope that we continue to make her proud. Paula did so many things that to some may not have seemed like a big deal, but as you heard from the stories, her actions and words meant a lot. We as people in the education field may forget our why and underestimate our value. We are dream builders, we are innovators, passionate people who can inspire and laugh while doing it. I hope you know from what was said today that, like my mother, you can make a difference in the lives of many. You can make life and work fun, and all you need to do is be compassionate, have empathy, and love more. Thank you.